I'd like to welcome you all to this first one-day conference and seminar for Gabbai. My name is Moshe Krupka. I'm the National Executive Director of the Orthodox Union. And I must tell you, it's a bit daunting standing here in front of a group of Gabbai. I'll spare you all the jokes that I've... But I must tell you that Mincha is later on this afternoon. I leave it all up to you who's going to actually have the Yomit for Mincha. We'd like to welcome all of you here. It's truly a sellout crowd. Those that have joined us at the world headquarters of the Orthodox Union here at 11 Broadway. And even more impressive is the fact that we have participants literally from around the globe that are joining us via our website, ou.org. I'd like to just point out for those joining us via the web that you'll notice on the conference schedule there are two simultaneous breakout sessions that will be taking place later on this afternoon at various points during the program. Each of those breakout sessions will be broadcast live for you. Simply follow the instructions. There are two portals by which you could log on. Unfortunately, the only thing we can't provide for you is lunch, which is going to be served later on this afternoon at 12:45. We want to apologize for those of you here with us. This is, as I said, an overwhelming response to a conference such as this, which only says to us that it's long overdue, that it should have been put together a long time ago for you. We apologize if it's a little cramped here in the room. We've tried to get as many people in as possible, and I'm sure you'll understand if the numbers far outweigh the amount of legroom that we have here in the office, but we'll try to make it as comfortable as possible. This conference is part of a series. It's part of a series to make Torah life meaningful and accessible to all of our constituents, not only here in North America, but throughout the world. We're graced with the presence of our president, Mr. Stephen Savitsky, who you'll be hearing from in a few moments, our executive vice president, Rabbi Dr. Tzvi Hirsch-Weinreb, and the mandate that they've set out for us, the staff of the Orthodox Union, is to bring Torah life to the masses, to the constituency, Ba'asher Hu Sham. And I must tell you that this is just one in a series of seminars that we've put forward for our communities, whether it be on positive Jewish parenting, positive Jewish marriages. This past summer we had a similar crowd here, but these were people that were involved and worked in the mikvos of our communities, giving them hadracha and chizuk and so on. And we look forward to bringing more of these type of seminars to you in order to help benefit Klal Yisrael and our kihilos. We want to thank those that have made this morning's conference possible, and Rishon Shebarishonim, the individual who has been the greatest advocate, and really the one who imagined such a conference years ago, was Mr. David Olivestone, who I believe is a frustrated Gabbai at heart. And he's been advocating and pushing us to put this conference together. And it was really his brainchild, and I want to give him a tremendous yashar koach for seeing the need and following through on it. This is a program of our Department of Community and Synagogue Services. It has two directors. Director of Community Services is Mr. Frank Buchweitz, who's in Chicago, who oversaw a parenting conference last night in Chicago, and Rabbi Meir Waxman, who you may have met this morning while registering for the conference. They are aided by their late chairman, Mr. Manny Adler of Teaneck, New Jersey. We want to thank them for putting the resources together to make this, for making this program possible. One of their key staff people is a young man who I have no doubt in the future you'll be hearing much more from. A very energetic, talented, creative young Manik B'Yisrael who literally put together all the details, the program, worked with the committee, and I want to give him a tremendous yashar koach, Rabbi Rob Shore, and give him a mazel tov. We had to make sure that this conference preceded his chasana, which is in 2-3 weeks. So now, Rob, once this is over, you can take care of all the other details. But now you'll be able to ask all of these people their advice on how to give out the kibbudim. We were aided in our efforts by a lay committee of Gabbayim that represented communities throughout North America, and I want to thank them. Mr. Jay Lunzer here from Manhattan, Mr. Tom Freund of Teaneck, Alan Sohn of Teaneck, Jeff Fisher of Passaic, New Jersey, Ben Adler, Beth Jacob in Los Angeles, California, Simi Grossman of the Bayit in Toronto, Mitch Stile of the Boca Raton Synagogue, and Zach Heeman of B'nai Torah in Indianapolis. We thank you for helping construct a program that would be meaningful to Gabbayim and give them hadracha in their avodas hakodesh. The Gemara in Sota tells us that the Kohen Gadol and the Melech at different times were instructed to read from the Sefer Torah in the courtyard in the Azor of the Beis HaMikdash. The Kohen Gadol, obviously, after the Avodah and Yom Kippurim, and the Melech, the king of Klal Yisrael, of Medinas Yisrael, of Eretz Yisrael, was asked once every 7 years at the end of Shemitah to read from a Sefer Torah. And the Mishnah in Perek Zayin, Daf Mem Amud Beis, tells us that there was a procedure, there was a protocol, there was a procession on how the Sefer Torah was taken out in the Beis HaKnesses, which was attached to the Beis HaMikdash. And we're told, the Mishnah says, Birchas Kohen Gadol, Ketzad, how did that bracha, how did the reading of the Sefer Torah of the Kohen Gadol, how did that procession take place? So the Chazan HaKnesses Notel Sefer Torah, the Chazan of the Knesses, who was the shamus of this synagogue near the Beis HaMikdash, he would take the Sefer Torah out, and he would give it to the Yinasein LeRosh HaKnesses. He would give that Sefer Torah to the Rosh HaKnesses, and the Rosh HaKnesses would give it to the Zgan, and the Zgan would then give it to the Kohen Gadol. And Rashi there tells us who is the Rosh HaKnesses. The Rosh HaKnesses was the individual who decided upon the kibbudim in the Beis HaKnesses, who decided on who would receive maftir, who would receive the various kibbudim that would take place during the tfilos in the shul attached to the Beis HaKnesses. Rabbosai, in our day and age, with no Beis HaMikdash, each one of our kihilos is blessed with a Mikdash Ma'at, the Beis HaKnesses, the synagogue in which we come 3 times a day to engage in a dialogue with the Ribbono Shel Olam. And I would suggest that each of you, take on the role of the Rosh HaKnesses, the individual who decides the protocol, the procedure, the procession, the order in which we as a community come together to talk and to pray to the Ribbono Shel Olam. The Rav Zichrono Livracha taught us that there can't be Kedusha, there can't be holiness without Hachana. In Kedusha b'li Hachana. It is you, gentlemen, that allow us, the community at large, to properly prepare to instill our communities with Kedusha. We at the Orthodox Union are so pleased and so proud to be the vehicle by which we can help you in your Avodas HaKodesh. For just a few moments before Rav Schachter begins his shiur, it's a great honor for me to introduce the President of the Orthodox Union, to give you words of welcome. Gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Steven Savitsky.
Thank you very much, Maish, and welcome to all of you who are here this morning, and to all of you who are watching us live via the web in hundreds and hundreds of locations throughout North America. It's nice to be here this morning, first of all, to see some old, familiar, and friendly faces, and to greet those of you who are joining us this morning for this historic occasion. You know, this building right here, in this office, on the 14th floor of 11 Broadway, really in many ways is the epicenter for Jewish life in North America and the world. Right here, every day, the problems, the opportunities, the questions that affect all of you come to us at the Orthodox Union. Whether it's things that have to do with kashrus, which is on the 12th floor, Yachad on the 13th floor, community and synagogue services on the 14th floor, whether it has to do with a problem in Washington with political decisions that have to be made, whether it's things in Eretz Yisrael, or problems that come about throughout the world. Literally every day, Rabbi Weinreb sits here, and the calls come in, and we try to respond as best we possibly can to meet the needs of Klal Yisrael. Today, as the Gabbayim gather, really it's just another way of us trying to find a vehicle to enhance the lives of Orthodox Jews. And it's a great zchus for me to be here to represent the Orthodox Union and welcome all of you. Rav Schachter is here, and of course we're all here to hear the shiurim, not to hear the President of the Orthodox Union give the sales pitch, which I'm perfectly capable of doing for several hours, but I will not do that. And so therefore I will just end with my personal favorite Gabbai story. I went about a year ago. I had a bar mitzvah, a very good friend of mine. I live in the Five Towns, Far Rockaway community. And my friend was a Gabbai in his shul for over 10 years. So he made the bar mitzvah in a shul, not the shul that he davens in every day. And the Rav of the shul was expected to come at a certain time to be the guest speaker. He came about 15 or 20 minutes late. So when he came, he said, look, I have to apologize. I didn't read the invitation, and I went to the white shul with my wife, and we assumed that's where the bar mitzvah was. And we pulled up to the parking lot, and there wasn't one car in the entire parking lot. So my wife said, obviously we're wrong. We have to go back and call. He said, no, don't you understand? Shalom's been the Gabbai in the shul for 10 years. He has no friends. So that's my favorite Gabbai story. So welcome very much. Thank you for coming. And I'll turn it back over to Moshe Krupka.
We fully recognize the position and the influence that each of you have in your particular communities. And that's why we want to bring a couple of points to your attention. You may have noticed that there has been some advertisements of a rally that's taking place in Albany on February 14th. This is a rally to help the legislator, convince the legislature to pass tuition tax credits of a particular nature that happens to be part of Governor Pataki's upcoming budget. We would be most grateful to each and every one of you as you return to your communities here in New York State to advocate for us and to advocate for our kids and for the tuitions that we all have to pay, and to motivate people within your community to participate in this rally. All the information is on www.ou.org, and again, we'd appreciate your help. I want to bring to your attention a wonderful sefer. It's part of your packets. Rabbi Chaim Wasserman, who is now listening to this conference in Yerushalayim, brought it to our attention. It's a Sefer HaGabbai, which was written by Harav David Avraham Spector. It's a wonderful, wonderful Sefer that I'm sure each of you will find interesting, noteworthy, and helpful in your Gabbayis. I just want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Sally Sachs, who is the world director of Mizrahi throughout the world. He's here to deliver a message about the upcoming Zionist elections, but he'll do so after Rav Schachter's presentation. Rav Schachter, along with Rav Aaron Lichtenstein and other Gedolei Torah, have all advocated for our registration and participation in the upcoming WCO elections. And right after Rav Schachter's shiur, Mr. Sachs will tell you just how important it is for all of us to get involved in this very, very important endeavor. It's, for me, a particular zchus to introduce Marino Arav, Tzvi Schachter, Rosh Yeshiva Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan, who will be giving us a shir on who gets an aliyah, who gets the yomid, understanding the halachos of chiyuv. Rav Schachter.
Thank you very much. The Noda Yehuda has in a few of his shuvas a comment that he doesn't like to write shuvas on certain types of topics, which there's no discussion in the Talmud about. Everything is based on minhagim. So also I find myself in a very uncomfortable position discussing aliyahs and kibbudim and chiyuvim. It's totally a non-halachic issue. Rav Soloveitchik would often, every so often, when he would be asked a shaila, so he would tell over the story about the Shagas Aryeh, that the Shagas Aryeh once came into shul in the morning and the Balabatim were fighting who has the right to daven for Nomid. So the Shagas Aryeh said, let's varv goyro. So when the Balabatim knew that in the Shulchan Aruch they have rules and regulations as to who has the right to daven for Nomid, so he asked the rabbi, what do you mean varv goyro? It says in Shulchan Aruch what the klolim are. So he said, how do you think the Magen Avraham figured it out? So Rachik would mention this sometimes. I would ask him, what color should the paruchas be? A non-halachic topic. So he would say, Varv Karo. Tell over this story about the Shagas Aryeh. Much of what we're going to discuss today, much of the Gabbai is not really, it's all minhagim. It's not really based on any halachas. But still, the minhagim are important. They tell a story about the Satmar Rebbe, and on one occasion there were two chiyuvim in shul on Shabbos. One was a bar mitzvah, one was a chasna. So he asked who has the right to say the mafta. So he said they should frag bar is elder. Yes, which one of the two is older? Because in Satmar used to get married at a very young age. That's not the correct answer. That's a good joke, but that's not the correct answer. There are rules and regulations. You don't varv girl over there, and you don't ask there is elder. Sometimes you ask other things. So the basis for much of the issue regarding different aspects as to why there are chiyuvim for aliyahs. One of the yisodos of the chiyuv for an aliyah is to be mechabed people. We have a din of kavod abriyos. The mitzvah of kavod abriyos is a biblical mitzvah. It's counted as one of the 613 mitzvahs. Lo yitamo. It says in the Chumash that if a kohen is not permitted to be mitame to any mason unless it's one of the 7 relatives. And then not only there's a machlokes hatanim how to read the pasuk lo yitamo. Is it permissible for the kohen to attend the funeral, or he's obligated to attend? So this was a debate. Bisman Abayis, Bisman Bayishein, after the Churban Beis Hamikdash. They accepted psak all along. There was always a machlokes. The accepted psak all along was that lo yitam is a chayva, that the kohen is obligated to be mitame to the 7 relatives because this constitutes a form of kavod abriyos. And then the Gemara assumes that if one is obligated to show kavod to the mason, it's a kal v'chaymer that you're obligated to show kavod to the chayv. A lot of people have the attitude fakir while a person is alive. We never respect him. After he's dead, then all of a sudden you show respect. That's not the case. The Gemara assumes that if the pasuk says lo yitam, there's the chiyuv kavod amesim, kal v'chaymer that there's the chiyuv kavod achayim. We always ask stand up when they bring in, when the Chevra Kadisha bring in the Yom. We always stand up while the fellow was alive. We didn't stand up. So what are we standing up all of a sudden now? So the Bar Tanura in his commentary on Mishnayos Bikurim points out that the Mishnah says in Bikurim when the pilgrims would bring the Bikurim to the Beis Hamikdash, everyone would stand up out of respect, not only the people who were self-employed, even the people who were salaried by others, and they're not allowed to be mevatel time from their working, their salary. Still, the Mishnah says, Kol Baal Yumnes would stand up out of respect for the people who were performing the mitzvah, going to bring the pilgrims who were on their way to bring the Bikurim to the Beis Hamikdash. So the Bar Tanura says that's the reason why we stand up when they bring in a mace for a funeral, not out of respect for the mace. We never stood up while it was alive. It's out of respect for the Chevra Kadisha who are performing a mitzvah now. And he says that's why the meaning is that one stands up when they bring in the baby for the bris. So the baby is not even gemalt. They're not going to stand up for the baby after the bris. He says, no, we're standing up out of respect for the kvata, who's bringing the baby to perform a mitzvah. It's not out of respect for the baby. So there is a din of kavod abriyos, there's a din of kavod amesim, and kal v'chaymer kavod achayim. So you have to be chabit people. So what constitutes kavod? So the Gemara has a discussion in Sanhedrin regarding the mitzvah of kvura when somebody dies. So the pasuk only has the mitzvah of kvura written by Harugei Bezdin. If someone was put to death by the Bezdin, Arbet Mrs. Bezdin, so it says in the Chumash kavod tikberena b'yamahu. It never says that if a person dies a natural death, a normal person dies a natural death, that you have a chiyuv kvura. So the Gemara sounds like it has a machlokes hatanoim, whether the chiyuv kvura min haTorah is only by Harugei Bezdin or by your mason. We assume that it's by your mason. That's how the Rama passes. By your mason, it's a biblical mitzvah to bury you. So the Gemara says, well, maybe we should learn that the Chumash records the fact that Avraham Avinu buried his wife Sarah. So why does the Chumash bother to record that, if not for the fact that it's to teach us that that is the din? So the Gemara says maybe that was the minig. Maybe the pasuk just says that Avraham Avinu was mekayim the minig. So the Achrayim comment on that Gemara, they quoted in Hilchos and Yeridei and Hilchos Klura. And why does the Chumash bother to write what the minig is? The answer is that whatever the minig is, that you're mechuyev to do. There is a din of kavod hamesim. How do you define what's covered? So years ago in Europe, the minig, the Chevra Kadisha bathes the body before they bury him, so they used to wash the hair with raw eggs. Today the minig is that you don't wash with raw eggs. Why? Covered amazim, it's not etched in stone. Covered achaim, covered is whatever is accepted as covered. So if then that was accepted as covered, so you do that. Now you wash the mason with a shampoo or whatever. So whatever is accepted as the minig, that constitutes covered. Covered is always covered hamaduma. It's always imaginary covered. So if it's considered a covered to give a person mafter on aliyah, whatever, if a guest comes to shul, Rav Moshe Feinstein comes into shul, Rav Soloveitchik comes to visit the shul. So what are you going to give? The Gabbai is going to ignore him. He's going to give all the aliyah. He's going to forget about the guest. Of course, you give the aliyah to the guest. That's a form of being mechaber a person. The answer is that's the minik ha'olam. That constitutes a form of covered. So the din requires you have to be mechaber a choshev a guest. Sometimes the chiyuv to give an aliyah is not out of covered abriyas, but rather mitam simcha and Shulchan Aruch they discuss the fact that a chassan who got married already, he's in the Shibbos Imam Mishnah, has a chiyuv to get an aliyah. They even have the Ramah even says, let's say you have two chassanim in shul on the Sheni B'Chamishi, Monday or Thursday, and neither is a Kohen or a Levi. So the Ramah says that you can make a hisofa on Sheni B'Chamishi. We don't pass like that. The Ramah says you can make a hisofa because each one has a chiyuv to get an aliyah. So you have to make 4 aliyahs to accommodate the both chassan. What is that all about? So when we studied Hilchos Kriyas HaTorah, so Soloveitchik explained that chassan has a chiyuv simcha. And the Rambam writes in Hilchos Yontiv that the chiyuv simcha and Yontiv doesn't only mean to eat, drink, and be merry, it means to be misameach others. The way to fulfill simchas Yontiv is not only you have to eat and drink and be merry also, but you have to give tzedakah to the anim. The way to fulfill simcha is to be misameach acherim, to be misameach umlolim, to make cheerful the other people who don't have. So part of the chiyuv simcha on Yontif and part of the chiyuv simcha by a chassan is to be misameach others. So what better way is that to cheer everybody up than to say a shtickle Torah? So the one who gets the aliyah al pidin is considered as if he's laning. Bisman Talmud, Bisman Mishnah, Bisman Gemara, whoever got an aliyah had to lane the aliyah. He was malamid Torah. He was teaching Torah to the whole tzibur. Even though Bisman said we have an institution of a balkari, nobody lanes on their own, but through Shemei Kohen it's considered as if the oil al Torah, as if the one who got the aliyah is really laning as if he's really malamid Torah to the other. So Rav Soloveitchik thought that that's the basis of the minig, why the chassan says a shtickle Torah by the chassan's tish. Or the chassan says, or the chassan gets an aliyah, the chassan says that by Torah by the Shevet Brachos. Why? He should be misameach acherim. It says in Shulchan Aruch that an ovel in the middle of Shiva is not permitted to learn because Bikuri Hashem Yisharim Misamchei Leiv, Liman HaTorah is misameach. But he doesn't have to walk out when they learn Kriyas HaTorah and Sheni B'Chamishi. But you're not allowed to give him an aliyah. So why can't he get an aliyah? What's wrong if he gets an aliyah? He's listening to the Kriyas HaTorah anyway. It's Seder Hayom. It says Shulchan Aruch, the Kriyas HaTorah is Seder Hayom. It's not so misameach. Don't get so excited. So what's wrong if you give the oval an aliyah? So the Rav Soloveitchik explained. It says in the Marshik has like this. In Ksav Sefer has in his Chuvas like this also. So they explain that this is another form of simcha. To be malamed Torah lacherim is another form of simcha. So that's why it says in Shulchan Aruch there was such a minig that it's considered a chiyuv to give an aliyah to the chassan. He should have an opportunity to fulfill his mitzvah of simcha, to be misameach others by learning Kriyas HaTorah. Then you have an inyan, which apparently is al pi Kabbalah, which I'm not at all. You have to have the intelligence of a 40-year-old to be able to study Kabbalah. So I'm not yet. I'm not madregas. So they just quote that a concept that on the fact that someone died on a certain day perhaps is an indication that that day is a Yom Adin for the family. The whole family suffered a loss. Perhaps it's a Yom Adin for that individual. So maybe now on the yahrzeit of his death, so maybe it's again going to be a Yom Adin for the whole family. Maybe it's then going to be a Yom Adin for the nifta. Maybe they'll be judging him again. Maybe they'll punish him again. So we're looking for schlusim. So that's why there's an inyan in Shulchan Aruch. It says there's an inyan to fast on a yard side. The Hasidim changed the minhag. They substitute, instead of fasting, they give tikkun. Okay, because they said it's hard for people to fast. So they give tikkun, so everybody says a bracha over the cake and the schnapps and whatever. Everybody, you have a whole meal, a fleshig meal with a benching. So all of these additional brachas I recited, the initiative to recite all the brachas is because of the fact that someone died on this day. So all these brachas are farechent as a schus to the nifta. Or over here, if the person fasts on the yard side, or the person davens for an omad, or the person gets an aliyah, so he's saying brachas. So that's why this is considered a schus for the nifta. Or a schus for the whole family. It may be a yoim adin for the whole family or for the nifter. So getting the aliyah will be considered a schus for him. So these are the basis of many of the chiyuv. So in the Achronim on Shulchan Aruch, they say that there are 7 chiyuvim. There's a hierarchy of 7 chiyuvim to get aliyahs, and it goes in the following order. First is a chosin who's going to get married. First is the chosin who's going to get married this week. Or sheni b'chamisha, the chosin getting married that day. Okay, so that's considered the highest level of an aliyah. That's the chiyuv simcha. Then you have a bar mitzvah bocher. What's up? Is the bar mitzvah bocher? How does that come in? To be mechabed him. Someone that's just covered abrius. The kid is just becoming a bar mitzvah. So you want to show covet. Usually we're not going to show such covet for the kid. But the day it becomes bar mitzvah, you want to give him a little extra covet. Then they have the next one after the bar mitzvah is the Baal HaYoledes. In the Chumash it says that when a woman gives birth to a baby, if it's a baby boy, so after 40 days she's obligated to come to the Beis HaMikdash to bring a korban. If it's a baby girl, after 80 days she's obligated to come to bring a korban to Beis HaMikdash. We have no Beis HaMikdash, so we say in the Kinnis that we recite on Tisha B'Av, the whole Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Ein lana shir rak haTorah zos. The only thing we have left in the Beis HaMikdash is the Sefer Torah. What in the world does the Sefer Torah have to do with the Beis HaMikdash? Beis HaMikdash, you have a mizbeach, a menorah, and a shulchan, and all kinds of other things. And the answer is no. The Sefer Torah was the center of the Beis HaMikdash. What was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? The Sefer Torah with the Oren HaBris, with the Luchas HaEdus. So the whole center of the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash revolves about the Sefer Torah. So and then the poskim assume in Shulchan Aruch that the reason why you have to have an shul bima b'yemtza is that it's zecher mizbeach. The mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash wasn't dead center in the middle of the Azara, but it wasn't all the way up in the front next to the Heichal. It was in the middle so that people could go around with hakofis, with hashaynis on sukkah. So by us also, the poskim have an insistence that we should have a bima b'yemtza zecher mizbeach that was b'yemtza in a certain sense. So that's why the minhag is that a woman who's mechuyev to bring the korban after the 40 days after the baby boy is born, or the 80 days after the baby girl is born, so we don't have the opportunity to bring a korban today. If and when I have 9 babies, and my wife, where the Beis HaMikdash will be built, my wife will have an obligation to bring 9 sets of korbanos, 1 set of korbanos for each one of the babies. But Kozman, there's no Beis HaMikdash, so the only thing we have left from the days of the Beis HaMikdash is the Sefer Torah with the shulchan that's comparable to the mizbeach. So you have a meaning that the husband, we don't give, in Orthodox synagogues, we don't give aliyahs to women. So the husband gets an aliyah, and that's considered a chiyuv, as if he's bringing the korban on behalf. The closest thing you can do is the husband is getting aliyah, as if that's the closest thing you can do to bringing the korban in the Beis HaMikdash. After number 4, that's number 3. Number 4 is if a person has yard site, bo bayom. He has yard site on that day, so that's a chiyuv to give him an aliyah. What's the chiyuv to give an aliyah? So we assume that any additional brachas that will be recited will be considered as a schus for the nifter, schus for the family, in case it's a yom adin for the family or for the nifter. So this should be farechment as a schus. Number 5 on the hierarchy, going down from the top to lower down. There are different minhagim about this, whether the Aliyah Ben, the Friday, the Shabbos that you have the Shalom Zocher, so the father of the baby, many communities have a minhag that they give him an Aliyah, the Shabbos before the bris. Other Acharedim write that they don't have such a minhag. Some communities, in principle, they have such a minhag that the father gets an Aliyah the Shabbos before, but if you have a chassan or the bar mitzvah, and at yard sites, you have so many other people, they grabbed all the aliyahs. I can make Isofis just in order to give the Aliyah Ben an aliyah. But they're different minhagim. let's say if the bris is on a Monday or Thursday, and the father is there in shul, so it says in Shulchan Aruch that there are 3 Baalei Bris who have a chiyuv to get an aliyah, and the Aviyah Ben, and the Moel and the Sandik. Let's say they're davening at 3 different minyanim. So each one is supposed to get an aliyah. If they're davening in the same minyan, let's say the Aviyah Ben and the Sandik are both Yisraelim. So you're not going to make a hisofa. We don't make a hisofa by the 2 Chasanim either. So the question is, who gets the aliyah, the Aviyah Ben or the Sandik? So by the Maharil, in the Yekis, father in the Maharil, so Maharil says that the Sandik gets kedima to the Aviyah Ben. And then the Polish Acharayim, the Polish Acharayim, right, in Eastern Europe they didn't have that. The meaning was that the Aviyah Ben takes precedence over the Sandik. If it's a conflict of Shedi Hamishi, so you give the aliyah to the Aviyah Ben as opposed to the Sandik. Going down on the list, number 6 on the list, after the Aviyah Ben, the day of the Shalom Zocher, would be one who has to recite Birchas HaGoimel. The Gemara says, there are 4 people who are obligated to recite Birchas HaGoimel. Rashi's opinion is that these 4 people, means that they're obligated to bring a korban toida. There's man hamikdash. Taisus disagrees, says there is no such thing. No one is ever obligated to bring a korban toida. Korban toida is always bob and edim and a dove. It's always optional, never an obligation. This only goes on reciting Birchas HaGoimel. But because of Rashi's opinion, that's why the meaning developed that we always give an aliyah to the one who wants to recite Birchas HaGoimel, or even if all the aliyahs are all taken up, based on the Kedimas, he's number 6 from the top of the list. A chassan with the Bar Mitzvah, with the Baal HaYoledis, and so on. So even if he doesn't get an aliyah, rather than him recite Birchas HaGoimel at the end of the davening, we always try to have Birchas HaGoimel recited in connection with the Kriyas HaTorah. In conjunction with Kriyas HaTorah, because, according to Rashi, the one who is reciting Birchas HaGoimel should really bring a korban in the Beis HaMikdash, and the thing that we have that's closer, the only remnant that we have in the Beis HaMikdash, Ein lo nashir rak haTorah hazos. That's what the Netziv writes in his Chuvas. He explains the minig, why the one who recites Birchas HaGoimel recites it in conjunction with Kriyas HaTorah. So he has the Chuvah why the Bima B'yam, so it's all in the same Chuvah. That Ein lo nashir rak haTorah hazos. And the Shulchan where we lane is like the Mizbeach, so when you take out the Sefer Torah you're laning, that's the closest we can get to the Beis HaMikdash. So that's why the Birchas HaGoimel is recited at that time. And then the 7th in the Seder of Tikadimus is if you have a guest who's visiting, give him an aliyah. Or if you have someone who's going on a trip. So many shuls, they have a special Mishaberach instead of just saying the plain Mishaberach. They add on a phrase, V'yatzliach darko. You should have a successful trip. Yeah, by us, everybody's traveling all the time. So it's, for business, everybody travels all the time. So a lot of shuls, they don't give this Misha Yotzei Laderech. If a person has, the meaning is that one gets an aliyah, one gets mafter, the Shabbos before one has yortzeit. So the two minhagim, what if the person has yortzeit bo bayom on Shabbos? Some say that it's preferable that he should get one of the 7 aliyahs, and some say that it's preferable that he should get mafter. Joe Alpert from Englewood told me that the first year that he had the shaila after his father passed away. So the first year that the yortzeit fell out on Shabbos, he traveled to the east side and they davened by Rav Moshe, and he asked him after davening which is preferable. So Rav Moshe said Zayin Krun, and then he went to his office. He put in a full day's work. He went home, and then Rav Moshe called him on the telephone before Lichtbench, and he said he thinks it's more correct that he should get mafta. Changed his mind. The two minhagim that he could. He thought that the reason why it's preferable to get mafta, that's what the Acharayim said, because you say more brachas. The one who says mafta says more brachas, so it's more of a schus for the difter. And then furthermore, the one who's in Avelis, and Shulchan Aruch, there's a minute, one who's in Avelis should try to get the mafta in the middle of the year, because, and the same thing on the yard side, because one of the brachas of the Haftarah is a bracha where we speak about tziduk and ne'emanatov, ne'emanim tevarecha. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu's judgments are all fair and correct. So that's why the meaning developed that the one is in Avelis Yud Beis Chodesh, she get mafta. It doesn't mean he should run around. Tzitz Eliezer writes like this. There are some people who have Avelis Yud Beis Chodesh, so they run around from shul to shul, and they bribe the Gabbai. They pay money to the shul. They have to get mafta every single week. It doesn't mean you get mafta every week. When it's his turn to get an aliyah, so the Gabbai should give mafta as opposed to giving him chamishi, shishi, whatever other aliyah. You should say mafta because it has more brachas and has the bracha of tziduk adin. But it doesn't mean one should try to run around all the time to get mafta. They should ask the local Orthodox rabbi. Yeah, I remember when I was a rabbi, we had a balabaz who he was from Iran, and his business was he sold Persian rugs, and he used to have a hold up. How do you call it? No, robbery. Every week he had a geneva in the store. So every week he was saying Brechas Hagamos. So we asked him, what's going on here? So he said, okay, that's the list of Mizu. You do say Brechas Hagamos, but sometimes it's a joke. So that the rabbi should establish. That's not up to the Gabbai. The rabbi should establish the guidelines. And should ask the rabbi whether it's room for the Brechas Hagamos. Okay. Of course, this whole concept of giving aliyahs to the people is only by medva mamur if the person is roy, if he's fit to get an aliyah. Thank you. The person that's going to be mechabit someone with maftim and he's going to kill the haftarah. He can't read Hebrew. He can't carry a tune. So that's terrible. So he's not qualified to get mafta. There's nothing to discuss. A person is so weak, he can't say the bracha out loud. The din is that you can only get an aliyah if you're saying bracha Hashem Avarach. The bracha you have to say it out loud. That at least 9 people can answer. They can hear and they can answer. If the person's going to whisper the bracha, so it's a bracha levatova. You already said Birchas HaTorah in the morning. You only say Birchas HaTorah when you get an aliyah. If the tzibur is going to hear, at least 9 people have to hear. Preferable is that everyone in shul should hear. But if you know that the person is such that he's going to say the bracha very softly, so you have to tell him you can't give him an aliyah. Give him hag ben glila, whatever, that you can do balachash. But an aliyah has to be the kol ram. Regarding chiyuv and daven for an so again, these are all minhagim. Yes, I'm going to present, I'm going to present for another maybe 15 minutes, then we're going to open the floor to questions and discussions. Now the question was, if a person can't see the oisias, is it proper to give him an aliyah? So in Shulchan Aruch, we passed him that a summa, a blind person, may get an aliyah, even though he can't read. Lechatchila, it's preferable that the Shulchan Aruch quotes from the Rosh, lechatchila, it's preferable that the one who gets the aliyah should read along with the Balkari. But if he's an Am Haaretz or he's a Summa, so then the Mikra then we pass him that it is permissible to give such a person an aliyah. The Mishnah Brura has a Chumrah. He says Parsha Zocher, that's not right, because there are those who are of the opinion Parsha Zocher is Min HaTorah, so it should be Machmer for those who say that if he can't lane along, you shouldn't give him an aliyah. Okay, Parsha Zocher, you're going to give it the rabbi anyway, Mr. Okay. With respect to davening for Namid, so we assume there are different chiyuvim. We assume that the one in the middle of Shiva has the strongest chiyuv, and he takes precedence. One in the middle of Shloshim has a lesser chiyuv. One in the middle of Abelis 11 months has a lower level of chiyuv. The idea behind all of this is the Beis Yosef quotes from the Zohar that there was a person who was suffering in Gehenna, and because his children, his son was reciting Kaddish, so he was paid to the father from Gehenna. And then the Ramon Shulchan Aruch quotes a medrash that if reciting Kaddish is paid a nitha from Gehenna, so certainly more so davening Parnam. And then in Shulchan Aruch he quotes, the Ramon quotes in the end of Yeridei, it's the Mishinah Bov, the simon about the reciting of Kaddish. So he says that the minik for the Avelim to recite Kaddish is basically for children before Bar Mitzvah who cannot serve as the Shliach Tzibur. Because more would be accomplished, not an issue of B'kavadik, more would be accomplished. A biggest chus for the nifter is that the son should daven for an amen. And the reciting of the Kaddish is for those who are unable to daven for an amen. The Ketanim who can't daven for an amen. So the idea behind the davening for an amen is to serve as a schus for the nifter. And he needs more schusim in the middle of Shiva because the Midas Hadin is more Mesucha, and then Shloshim a little less, and then Yirbeis Kodesh a little less. The idea that the Ramor writes that we only recite Kaddish, one who recites Kaddish for the parent only recites Kaddish the first 11 months, and the Ramah writes the only davens Farnamid the first 11 months is because the Gemara has a statement, a tradition, Mishpat Rishon Gehenim is Yud Beis Chodesh. The maximum anybody suffers in Gehenim is 12 months. So we don't want to indicate as if our parents who passed away were such Rishon that they're going to get the maximum punishment. So that's why we terminate the reciting of Kaddish after 11 months. What happens if a person knows his father was a Rasha? Everybody knows. Communist, whatever. So if everybody knows, it would be very nice that you should say Kaddish for the 12 months. The only thing is, if not everybody knows, a Busha, it's a Bizoyim. He's going to say Kaddish and then he's going to observe the yard, so he's going to see that he said for 12 months. So if nobody knows who he is, the guy comes, goes, not everybody knows who he is. Nobody knows when his father died, and he knows his father was a Rashi. He's afraid his father may get the maximum. So Taka should say for 12 months. If everybody knows who it is, and so on, so then we only say for 11 months. The Ramah writes that the same minig that we only say Kaddish for 11 months, the same minig applies to davening Farnomen. The davening Farnomen is a bigger schus than reciting Kaddish. It's quite the parent from Kehanim more so than the reciting of the Kaddish. So the Ramah says that the Obel only davens Farnomen the first 11 months. Moshe Feinstein writes in one of his trubas, like the other minig, that even though we only say Kaddish for the first 11 months, but maybe to daven Farnomen, maybe it's more correct that you should daven Farnomen even in the 12 months as well. So there are different minhagim about this. Most Achronim say not so. That in the 12th month, just like the Oval doesn't say Kaddish, he doesn't daven Farnomen either. When one has, in the middle of Shiva, the Shach writes in Yeridea, and this is the practice, middle of Shiva, we assume Midas Adinis Mesucha more so than Shloshim and so on. So it doesn't depend on when the Oval is observing Shiva. Let's say the Kvura was on Erev Pesach in the morning, and then Erev Pesach in the afternoon, Chatzois takes over the Shiva. Erev Pesach, a special din, Machlokes, and the Ramahs make that Erev Pesach at Chatzois is already a Yontiv. What we call Pesach is really Chag HaMatzos. And on Erev Pesach after Chatzois, that's Chag HaPesach. That's the Chag when you bring Korban Pesach. That's the way it's described in Chumash and Parshas Emor. You have Sholosh Regolim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then you have Chag HaPesach. In addition to Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, but Chag HaSukkot, you have Chag HaPesach. Chag HaPesach is Erev Pesach after Chatzois. So the Ramah paskins like this opinion that Erev Pesach after Chatzois cancels the Shiva. So let's say the Shiva, the Nihuk Shiva is up, but he's still in the middle of the first 7 days after the death of his parent. So he's still entitled to the Yomad. He's still considered Terch Shiva on, let's say, Mincha afternoon. He's still considered Terch Shiva, and on Chalamoid also he'll be considered Terch Shiva. We have a minig in Shulchan Aruch that the Oval, who's in the middle of Shiva, Shloshim, Yud Beis Chodesh, doesn't daven Farnomen on Shabbos and doesn't daven Farnomen on Yontif. So there are different minhagim how far this goes. Many of the Achronim say we're not exactly sure why this is the minig. So they say, we're not going to add on Shabbos and Yontif, that's it. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and we don't add on anymore. And others say no. The Chayodim quotes from the Vilna Gaon that there was once an Oval on Purim and he wanted to daven Farnomen. So the Vilna Gaon said, Oval b'chafi rosh, you shouldn't daven Farnomen on Purim. So in the Pri Megadim was a Galatiana, but he lived in Germany. So he writes in Germany the minig is that any time that you don't say Tachnun, have Shabbos in the afternoon, Chalamoid, Rosh Chodesh, an Oval doesn't daven Farnomen. Many other places the minig is not so that Leil Rosh Chodesh double does daven Farnomen. Rosh Chodesh in the morning Shabbos he does daven Farnomen. Just someone else takes over for Halal and for Musaf. So the different minhagim. You have to establish what the minig hamakom is. So again, so the Shach writes like this. Let's say the Kvura was Erev Pesach in the morning, and Chatzois cancels Shiva, but the Oval comes to Shul Erev Pesach in the afternoon. He's going to daven Farnomen Mincha in a place where they do allow the Oval to daven on Erev Pesach. So he says he's still considered in the middle of Shiva. And it comes Chalamoid also still considered in the middle of Yontif. We don't let him daven Farnomen. We have Azar minig. But Chalamoid, if the minig is that they would let him daven Farnomen, he takes Kedim. He's considered in the middle of Shiva. To take Kedim over the one who's in the middle of Shloshim. Even though the Yontif cancels Shiva, the Yontif cancels Shloshim, that's with respect to the Oval's observance of the Avelis, the Nihug Avelis. But as far as the Onshim, the Mesichas Adin, the Minas Adin, Mesucha on the Nifter, and we want to tikkun for the Nifter, so this really depends on whether it's within the first 7 days or not. Or the reverse the Shach writes. Let's say a person is notified about the death of a relative 3 weeks after the person died. So that's called Shmor Kroiv. Shmor Kroiv is if he's notified after 30 days went by. Shmor Kroiv is notified within 30 days. So if he's notified within 30 days of the death of the relative, so the din requires he has to observe Shiva. He's in the middle of Shiva, but it's not Shiva to the Nifta. So he doesn't have the din. He doesn't have the Kedima to get the Yomad over one who's in the middle of Shloshim. He's considered, the Mace is in the middle of Shloshim. The Oval is in the middle of Shiva, but the Mace is in the middle of Shloshim. The Yonta canceling, many families, they arrange to have a Siyum Mishnayis by the Shloshim. So some sharp Talmidei Chachamim think, well, if Yontav cancels Shloshim, you got to make the Siyum Mishnayis before Yontav. So it says in Shulchan Aruch that it's not correct. Whatever is considered a schus for the Nifter, Yontav doesn't cancel Shiva, Yontav doesn't cancel Shloshim. Yontav cancels as far as the Niyug of the Oval, the observance of the Oval. As far as the Nifter is concerned, he's in Dalam Amis. He doesn't have any Yontav. We have Yontav. The living people have Yontav. The dead guy doesn't have Yontav. So the Shiva and the Shloshim are determined by where he is, not by where we are. In Shulchan Aruch, they say that the minig is that the one who has yahrzeit, also you should have him dama farnomid. A stronger chiyuv is the one who's in the middle of Shiva. Less, the chiyuv should be Shiva, Shloshim, Git, Beis Chodesh, and yahrzeit should be the last schus. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, let's say, you can daven different, let's say, in this shul, someone can daven the first half of the davening till Ashri Volatzi, and someone will daven the second half. So the Avelim who are in the middle of Shiva, Shloshim, Yid Beis Chodesh, they have Kedima. So they should really daven in the beginning of the davening. The one who has Yid Beis Chodesh, you let him, the one who has a yahrzeit, you let him daven at the end. Let's say Mincha, if he's coming someplace, they're only going to daven one tefillah. So if it's a toss-up, either you're going to let the one who has yahrzeit daven, or he's going to lose out completely. It's not a question of who gets how many kadeshim, who gets which part of the davening. It's either question he's going to get that he's not going to get. So then they say the im vayachshav emasai, the one who has yahrzeit, he has no other opportunity to daven farnomid or to say kaddish. So then he's doicha the others. But if it's not a question of being doicha, it's a question everyone's going to get part of the davening. Everyone's going to get a kaddish. Just a question of who gets how much. So then the yahrzeit is really lower on the list. Again, it all depends on the minhagim. Whatever the minhagim are, the Gabbai have to establish what the minhagim are. The minig is that one is in the middle of Avelis, Yud Beis Chodesh doesn't daven farnomid on Shabbos and Yontav. The question is, what if he has yahrzeit on that day? The person has yahrzeit on Shabbos. So again, the different minhagim. Rav Soloveitchik had this asik. His mother, the year that his mother died, quite a few years after his father, many years after, 30, 40 years after the father. So that year he had yahrzeit for his father on Shabbos. So he davened farnomid on Shabbos, even though normally he wouldn't daven farnomid on Shabbos in the middle of Avelis Yid Beis Chodesh. But they're different minhagim. So whatever the minig hamakom is should be observed. If a person died in a Shana Pshuta with only 1 month of Adar, and then he has yahrzeit, the year comes up where it's a Shana Muberes, so then there are different opinions in Shulchan Aruch when the person should observe the yahrzeit, either or the Rishon or the Shady. And the Ramah recommends that he should observe both. So the Vilna Gaon has a comment on that Ramah that it's not only to be machmer for the both opinions, no, that they're both correct. That in a year that you have or the Rishon or the Sheni, the day on which the person died, we assume is a Yom Adin, either for the Nifter or for the whole family, and it's Eis Tzora. So the Oval wants to daven for an so which is the day on which the person died. So we assume that or the Rishon is the correct Adar, and or the Sheni is also correct Adar. They both have the status of Adar. Because the Gemara has a whole discussion among the Tanoim, when you have a Shana Muberes, when you have an Or the Rishon or the Sheni, where do you read the Megillah? So we read the Megillah and Or the Sheni, but other Tanoim say you read the Megillah and Or the Rishon. So the Gemara has a whole discussion which is more correct. So the Gemara doesn't say, well, which is the real Adar? The Gemara assumes that both Adar. Or the Rishon is Adar, or the Sheni is Adar. Well, gives side reasons why we should read the Megillah, why we should prefer to read the Megillah and or the Rishon, or why one should insist on preferring to read the Megillah and or the Sheni. But it would appear, the Vilna Gaon says, it would appear from the Gemara that they're both considered Ador. So if one assumes that that day, if they Zayin Ador, if Moshe Rabbeinu died in the Shana Pshuta, and his yahrzeit would be observed in the Shana Muberes, so the Ramah suggests that maybe you should observe both, or the Rishon or the Shein, and not only Mintam Sofik, the Dom Kohen says, but B'Toras Vada. Again, different minhagim, what one should do. Many have a minik that's mentioned in Shulchan Aruch that if a person has yahrzeit in the middle of the week, he davens for anomet on Motzei Shabbos. So this is only by Medbar Mamurim. He's not doing another chiyuv, but let's say there's someone there who's an Avelis Yit Beis Chodesh. So this is considered a lesser chiyuv. One should daven for anomet, the Motzei Shabbos, before he has yahrzeit, is considered a lesser chiyuv. Again, it depends whatever the minig is. But of course, this is all about Medvar Mamurim. There's a condition here. A person is only permitted to daven for anomet if he's merutza l'kohol. In Shulchan Aruch, we assume that the Shliach HaTzibur has certain properties like a Shaliach. We say he represents the Tzibur Shluchah Shalom Kemoisai. We have a rule that the Shliach has to be appointed by the Shaliach. The one on whose behalf he's acting has to appoint him and approve of the fact that he's doing what they want him to do. A guy has a yahrzeit every Shabbos. He has a yahrzeit for an aunt, a yahrzeit for a grandmother, a yahrzeit for a cousin. And the people don't want to hear him daven for anomet. They don't want to hear him say maftir. So they're not happy with him. So it says that's the rule number one. If the fellow is not merutza l'kol, he's not allowed to daven for anomet. Not merutza l'kol means he davens too fast, or he davens too slow, or he doesn't know nusach, he doesn't know the niggin, he doesn't know ibra, whatever it happens to be, unless it doesn't bother the call. But it does bother the call that it's really it's a dirty job that the Gabbai has. It's the Gabbai's obligation to tell the fellow, sorry brother, you can't daven for anomet. It's a very serious responsibility. He has to tell him, you're not merutza l'kol. We don't want you to daven. Yeah. Let's say when I have yahrzeit for my mother, when it falls out on Shabbos, I don't daven for anomet because I know that it will not be merutza l'kol. In the weekdays, barely, because I daven too slowly. They don't like the fact that I daven so slow. So sometimes where I go in the summertime, they don't let me. In the summertime on vacation, sometimes they don't let me daven for anomet because I daven too slowly. The whole difference is 4.5 minutes difference in the way they daven, the way I daven. But in the weekdays, I impress upon them that I'll leave out every other word and I'll keep up with it. But on Shabbos, I wouldn't daven. I was told that Ramosha Feinstein would often not daven for anomet on the day on which he had yahrzeit on the weekdays because he felt he wasn't merutza l'kol. He thought that they wouldn't enjoy the way he daven for anomet. The chazan has to be merutza l'kol. In fact, in Shulchan Aruch, they have a minig that the one who says slichas before Rosh Hashanah, says Mechuvah, one who says slichas davens all day long. Whatever different reasons given for that minig. So the shaila is, what if someone has yahrzeit on that day? So it says in the Shulchan Aruch, even if someone has yahrzeit, the kohol would rather prefer to observe this minig than that minig. So he's considered, the one who has saying slichas is considered more merutza l'kol than the one who has yahrzeit, unless you know the nature of the kohol, that the kohol would prefer to have the other fellow. They don't care one way or the other. Okay. But if he's not merutza l'kol, then it's either the obligation of the Gabbai or the rabbi to tell the fellow, sorry, you're not allowed to daven for anomet. Just say kaddish. When the Gabbai want to make haisofis, that's a question. The Mishnah speaks about making haisofis on Shabbos. The different opinions whether we permit. It says in the Mishnah we don't permit haisofis on the weekdays. And even if you have two chasanim, and both Yisraelim, neither is a kohen or levi, so we don't follow that Ramah. That the Ramah said that you're permitted to make a haisofah when you have two chasanim, because a chasan is like a yontif. We don't follow that psak of the Ramah. But let's say on Shabbos we do permit haisofahs. The Mishnah says, what about yontif? What about Yom Kippur? You give 3 aliyahs on a weekday, and when it's a little more important, like Chalamoid or Rosh Chodesh, you give 4 aliyahs. Yontif you give 5 aliyahs. Yom Kippur you give 6 aliyahs, and Shabbos you give 7. Machlokes hatanoim, whether Yom Kippur is 7, Shabbos is 6. If the kiva holds like that, then we pass like Rabbi Shmuel that we give 6 aliyahs on Yom Kippur and 7 aliyahs on Shabbos. So on Shabbos, for sure, you're permitted to make haisofas. What about Yom Tov? What about Yom Kippur? So that's a machlokes and the Rishonim. And the meaning is that we don't make haisofas on those. Not only on Simchas Torah. We make a lot of haisofas. But Mikra did we really hold that you may make haisofas on Yom Tov. So even when you make haisofas on Shabbos, what it says in Shulchan Aruch, so there is a dispute in Achronim. What about Bisman Hazeh, that when the person gets an aliyah, he's not going to lay in his own aliyah. The Balkari is going to lay. So the Balkari is going to be moitzi the oil al with the kriyas al So is that right to make haisofas? Rely more on this kula, on Shemei Kohenim. So several Achronim hold that it's not right Bisman Hazeh to make haisofas, period. because we don't have the Oil Torah laning, unless by those Sephardic communities, but the Oil Torah is going to lane himself, okay, then you can make Oisofis. The common practice is that we do make Oisofis in order to have more Hachnasa for the shul. But the Gabboim who are deciding where to make the Oisofis have to know we have an old minig. It's not a din, we have an old minig. The Rambam quotes this in his commentary on Mishnais, that you don't stop by a dover ra, by a dover shel poronos. So a lot of times the Gabbai will make Oisof in the middle of nowhere, where he's not permitted to make Oisof. So they should be careful about that. In fact, if you look in the Shari Ephraim, which is the safe that has all about the Kriyas HaTorah, so the Shari Ephraim points out that on some of the Parshias HaShavua, where they have the Aliyahs printed, Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, and so on, some of them are wrong. Some of them are printed in a place where it's a Paronis. Some hold in Parshas Bereshis, it says, Ozu Chalikro B'Shem Hashem. So Rashi says that was the beginning of Avodah Zarah. So many Achronim say you shouldn't stop there. It's not a proper place on Bahaloischa. So many Chamoshim have, I think, Shishi is by the Misonanim. So that's not right. Either to start or to stand in Aliyah, unless you have no choice. But if it's up to us, it's more correct not to begin in Aliyah, not to end in Aliyah on a Dovara. Just to sum up, it's a serious responsibility on the part of the Gabbai to see to it that he's fair to the kohol and he's fair to the one who has a chiyuv. And if the fellow is not going to pronounce the tefillas properly, he's not going to say the niggin properly, he's going to daven too fast or too slow, it's the responsibility of the Gabbai to tell him, sorry, you can't daven panom. And when it's a person who will say the brachas properly, he will daven properly. So it's the responsibility of the Gabbai to see to it that he gets the proper aliyah. I remember once, just to conclude with this, I remember once in the summertime, we used to go to a bungalow colony. So the Gabbai in the bungalow colony was Rabbi Noach Goldstein, so he kept records of exactly how many times he gave this one shlishi, shishi, and mafta, and so on, to make sure that everything was even Steven. He wouldn't be mechabit one person more than the other person. That's important. You have to share the aliyahs properly. The Achronim suggest that one should try to get an aliyah at least once every 30 days. Midas Chasidus to try to get an aliyah. Okay, we'll open the floor for discussion, questions, kashas. To what extent does membership in the shul serve as a criterion to get an aliyah? In the Shulchan they do discuss that. Yeah, the Magen Avraham has all these clubs. I was never a Gabbai. I hope I'll never be a Gabbai. But it plays a role. It plays a serious role. Got to look in the rules and regulations. The kashaila is if you have three chiyuvim, and none of them are a kohen or lady. So is it proper to disregard the kohen or lady? So the Gemara, the Mishnah says the kohen gets the first aliyah as a takana with the rabbanon. That it shouldn't be machlokes. The Gemara says, why the takana the rabbanon? It's a pasuk in Chumash v'kidashto. He gets the first aliyah as a mitzvah min haTorah. The Gemara says no, min haTorah the kohen gets the first aliyah. But if he wants to, he can be mochel on his covet. But if sometimes on Shabbos he'll be mochel on his covet for this one, and if for the other one is not mochel on the covet, it's going to make a whole world war. So they made a takana that the kohen is not permitted to be mochel on his covet. So the Gemara says this takana takana with the rabbanon, not to make machlokes, you don't allow the kohen to be mochel on his covet. That's only on Shabbos when there's a big crowd. But on the weekdays, not such a big crowd, so it's not going to make machlokes. So the kohen may be mochel on his covet. So Taisus writes up with his man Hazeh. Taisus, in the days of the Balei Taisus, they didn't have big communities. They had barely, during the Crusades they killed all the Jews, but there weren't so many Jews there in the village. They had barely a minyan in the community. So they had the same number of people showing up in shul on Shabbos and on the weekdays. Everything was the same. So Taisus says that Hank Bisman Hazeh, that the same people come to shul on Shabbos and the weekdays, so they'll make machlokes in the weekdays also. The kohen is never allowed to be mochel on his covet. So Moshe Feinstein and the Aruch HaShulchan, the later posting say, oh, but Bisman Hazeh. We went back to the practice of the days of the Gemara. The shuls are clearly more crowded on Shabbos and Yom Tov than they are in the middle of the week. So we go back to the din of the Gemara. That in the middle of the week, the kohen is permitted to be mochel on his covet. But the pashtus is only by medvar and murmur. It's really mochel on his covet. You can't just say b'mechilas hakohen. You have to go over and ask him, are you mochel? That's the question, is it right is it right to ask the Kohen to be mochel on this Kohen? Reb Soloveitchik thought that it wasn't right. It's not right to be mochel on this Kohen. Some have a minig, I think, the quote from Mordechai Bennett, that there's no Levi, so the Kohen's going to hack 2 aliyahs, going to get the first 2 aliyahs. So then you should ask the Kohen to be mochel on his Kohen, but he should walk out whatever. So Rashik thought it's never right to ask the Kohen to be mochel because we live in America. It's so many people don't know whether they're Kohen or Levi or Yisrael. The whole Yuchsan of Klal Yisrael is being forgotten. He insisted in Maimonides, he insisted when the students write their names on test papers or on homework, they should write HaKohen HaLevi. So it shouldn't be forgotten. They're not all going to be religious people when they grow up. So it shouldn't be forgotten who's a Kohen, who's Levi. A lot of times you get there, come to a chasana, come to a bar mitzvah, they don't know whether they're Kohen or Levi. So he thought it wasn't right. He thought part of the Kiddush is to preserve the Yuchsan and Klal Yisrael, and it's slipping through. We're missing the whole thing. So it's really, in the weekday, strictly speaking, the Kohen can be mochel on his God, but you have to ask him. You have to go, the Gabbai has to go up and ask him, is he mochel on his God? Yes. If you have the Seder Kedim, is the question. If you have these priorities, and one person has the priority, is it improper for him to be mochel and give the schus of the Yom to someone else? So the poskim say it's not really right that he should be mochel because it's not his schus. He's trying to give a schus to the nifta. So it's really the schus of the parents. So it's not really right that he should be mochel. They tell the story about Rabbi Sol Salanta in the Sefer Tnuas HaMusa. That years ago, it's clear in the Shulchan Aruch and all the Rishonim, years ago, only one person would say Kaddish. They didn't have everybody say Kaddish at the same time. And so many people died, so if they would take turns saying Kaddish, so the child would only get a right to say Kaddish once every week, once every 2 weeks or something. There were so many available, so many people like that. So if Kiveger instituted, they should all say Kaddish in unison together. And then, because of this big epidemic, we should go back to the old custom that one person should say Kaddish at a time. And in most of Europe, they left it that everybody says Kaddish in unison. So Rabbi Sol Salanter and some of his Talmidim also followed that. They felt that it's not right for everybody to say Kaddish. When he had Yortzeit, when he davened for Anomid, he Beis Chodesh Yortzeit, so he would only say Kaddish if he would be the only one. So on one occasion, I had Yortzeit for his mother, and he asked all the other, Rabbi Sol Salanter asked all the other people, let me say one Kaddish without everybody else saying Kaddish. And they said, no. The meaning is that everybody says Kaddish together. So he was pleading. He couldn't get anywhere. So he didn't say Kaddish that day. He didn't say Kaddish on his mother's yards. So he commented that usually reciting of Kaddish is a schus for the mother, and now the fact that he gave over the Kaddish to the others, that's the schus for the mother. He did a gemilas chesed to the other person. The other guy insisted he wants to say Kaddish in unison, so he felt that'll be the schus for the mother. But more correct is that it's not right to be mochel. That's the other guy's more merutza l'kol. That's the other one. The other Baal Tefillah is more merutza l'kol. So basically, the right to daven for Anomid is only if you're merutza l'kol. If the other one who's less of a chiv is more merutza l'kol, so then it's within reason.
We just want to welcome all the people on the web. We have hundreds of people joining us via OU.org from literally around the world, from Australia, from London, throughout North America, and we welcome you all, and we want to invite you also to ask questions. We're going to give you an email address now, if you'll write it down, please, that you can send your questions to, and they'll be brought to the presenters of the various sessions. The email address is waxman, WAXMAN, at OU.org. Waxman, WAXMAN, like Mary, at OU.org. Or Moshe.
I'm sure there is, but I'm not familiar. You have to look in the Gabbai books. I was never a Gabbai. They do talk about that. Yes. Oh, the question was, is there any, I forgot to mention, the question was, is there a difference whether one has yahrzeit for a spouse or a child or a parent? The pashtus is that the whole idea of reciting Kaddish, the whole idea of davening for Anomid is only a child or a grandchild. It's based on the Gemara in the end of Sanhedrin that bro mezaka abba, abba lo mezaka bro. The schusim, the mitzvahs, and the meisim tovim that a child or a direct descendant does is farech and does a schus for the parents or the grandparents or the great-grandparents because they're an extension of them. But a spouse and the other relatives, whatever they're going to do is not really farech and does a schus. The only thing is on the yard side, it may be a yom adin for the whole family. So I need a schus. Forget about the nifta. I need a schus. So there is such a consideration. Yes? The question was that the Kohen should not be moichel on his covet. We insist the Kohen should be moichel. What about on Simchas Torah? I don't think it's necessary to keep on calling a Kohen Levi Yisrael. I don't think so. I think it says in Shulchan Aruch that you don't give the person a second aliyah. No, I don't think so. Please. In Shulchan Aruch they have two. Either the first time that the woman comes to shul, so then the minig is that it's a chiyuv for the husband to get an aliyah, or right, or more of a chiyuv is after the 40 and 80 days, even if the wife didn't come to shul. Yeah. Yes. There's purchasing the aliyah. If the auction of the aliyahs gives a priority. Yeah, in Shulchan Aruch they say that that's covered Torah. Covered Torah is that people should buy the aliyahs. Yeah, if it's done in a proper fashion. It says you're even allowed to auction off the aliyahs on Shabbos and Yom Tov. There's no violation of Mekach and Memkar. It should be done in a Bekavidik fashion. So let's say on Simchas Torah, the auction off the aliyahs, so that takes precedence to all the chiyuv. Yeah. Shabbos also, if the practice is that the auction off the aliyahs, yeah. Uh-huh. I mean, the meaning in your shul is that the father of the baby takes precedence over the Bala Yoletis. The Shulchan Aruch, they have two forms of the Bala Yoletis. One is the first Shabbos she comes to shul. There was a minig that the husband gets an aliyah. And then the other minig is, even if she doesn't come to shul after the 40 or the 80 days, after a boy or a girl, respectively, so then that's considered like in the place of a korban. What the minig is based on that the first time the wife comes to shul, that I don't know. Two more questions. Bakasha. Oh. Yeah, the Achreidim right, that if you have a Chazan Kavua, that's the whole purpose of the Chazan Kavua on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because the guy has yards that's going to kill the davening. So it's better enough we have to suffer with him in the middle of the week, but suffer enough on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So that's why the meaning is we have a Shatz Kavua, and everyone loses their schusim on Shabbos and Yom Tov. When I go in the summertime, I go to Tannersville, so the part of the job description of the rabbi has to daven for an omen on Shabbos, Ma'ariv Shachris, Minchanat, Ma'ariv Shachris and Musaf. And even whether you have yard site, you can stand on your head. You're not going to daven for an omen. There's only one exception to the rule. There's one Talmud Chacham there, Rabbi Farber. He's a Meridig about Tefillah. So when he has yard site, they let him down because he's a knockout about Tefillah. That's for the last 40 years. That's built into the clauses of that's part of the bylaws of the shul. That's the exception to the rule. Otherwise not. Otherwise, whoever has yard site doesn't get the omen on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Yeah. Is it proper to separate into different minyanim if you have multiple chiyuvim? There are communities, it's recorded in this one, there are communities would have such a practice. And many say it's more correct, but Rav Hadras Melech is better that you should all daven together and have one person daven for another. Last question. Who has the Gabbai who has the right to say the next question? We're gonna barf Gairov. Okay, from the back. Guy getting up from Shiva. I don't think that's a chiyuv. Is that considered a chiyuv to get up? I don't even know. I don't know. I'm not familiar. I got a book and the Gabbai's book. Don't know. Okay. Sorry.